and they appear at sort of uncomfortable regularity, which is, and I think there seems to be a non-understanding of how to deal with this, with the problems that we see, either with the Khalistanis or with, Pakistan and UK, etc. Would you like to talk about it, since we are just fresh off an incident?
Yeah, actually, I would not agree with your characterization. Actually, I think we are capable of dealing with them. Any strengthened relationship should be capable of dealing with disagreement. That's part of what you do. In the case of extremism, and the specific case of Khalistani extremism, I think there is no disagreement. I think what happened in the Indian High Commission was absolutely not okay. And it's a symptom of an issue, which is Khalistani extremism. Now, we look at extremism not in relation to any one particular group of people, but overall. Extremism is a risk in any country. It's certainly a risk in mine. We have a very broad toolkit for how you deal with extremism, which at one end can be arrest and criminal prosecution and so forth, but actually it's about a lot more than that. It's also about tackling disinformation and misinformation. One of the things that happened in a few days after the incident in the Indian High Commission, which, as I say, was totally not okay, was there was a debate in Parliament. A minister was asked a question about the closing down of the internet in the Punjab, and the minister gave the facts and said that's actually factually incorrect to say that. So you have to tackle those narratives and that disinformation and misinformation. You also have a whole range of tools available in the UK for how you deal with extremism. That includes closing down TV stations, if they're not really TV stations. That means closing down schools, which aren't really schools, but vehicles of propaganda. That means closing down charities, which are not charities, but actually financing extremism. And I say that, I don't want to point at any one group or individual, but you have a full range of tools for how you deal with that. And we take it seriously. It's a real issue inside the UK, as in every country. What we already had, actually, before those incidents in early March, we created a joint task force for dealing with extremism with India. That was already up and running. That was already people working together to understand better the nature of risks and threat inside in relation to Khalistani extremism, amongst others. And that has continued. So I completely understand the anger here about what happened. That was a completely unforewarned small group of people doing some damage to the High Commission. I would have been as equally angry if it had happened to our High Commission. The police have bolstered their presence outside the High Commission since then. You know, it's on a very, very busy road, one of the busiest roads in London, around the Strand. And we've improved the communication for how we deal with those incidents at great speed, although the police did actually appear, I think, about 7 or 8 minutes after the original incident. And we are discussing kind of longer-term measures about how to improve the security. So you've got to be able to handle those things, because I don't think we can afford to be blown off course. Some people want us to be blown off course, I guess. I don't think we can afford it. I think that the challenges which India and the UK face, and sometimes face together, is too big for us to be able to make this relationship fail. And I think the integrated review refresh and the integrated review tell you why there are big challenges and why the world is as it is, and we have to deal with it. So I am absolutely determined that we keep our eyes on the prize of a much closer strategic relationship. And you're going to have to deal with the bumps, of course. But it's inevitable, I think, when you have such a thickness of human relationship as you do between the two countries. One other thing I think which can help with that is there's a huge flow of people from India to the UK. I don't think there are nearly enough people coming from the UK to India. Mm-hmm. Now that's partially resolved by India reinstating the e-visa for tourists and so forth, but actually one of my aims over the next year or two is to get a much bigger cohort of young Brits to come to India. I did it when I was 18. I lived in this country for just under a year when I was 18. Had a huge effect on me. And I just think not enough people in the UK understand the reality of India today.
Right. I'm going to open up for questions and comments. So please, if you could just introduce yourself, that would be helpful. So.